guys and gals, Insomnia from UnrealTek.net again. Today, since we've done more blueprinting on the last few episodes than the entire rest of the project, I figured let's do something new and useful. A simple, to start anyways, radial selection menu, also known as a pie menu. This will allow us to test functions without using blutility, and allow us to add the ability to select guns and items, primary, secondary, primary item, secondary item, stuff like that. Other things like that interactively during the game. So with that said, open up your project. Remember, create your way, and let's get started. We're going to make a new image, 124 by 124. I'm going to show you quickly how to go with the process. Bring up the line tool and make it a width of 12 pixels, and then create a vertical line and use the auto align tool to align it directly down the center like so. I'll zoom in so you can see that. So right down the center pixels, not on the sides, but down the center. And then we can draw another one and zoom in, on a separate layer. So make sure you click and then hold down shift to draw a straight line on another layer, and then we will auto align that as well. So that is set right to the center. Now to draw a circle, we're going to zoom in so we can see the pixels like that. We're going to grab our ellipse tool, and if you just click and don't drag, you get a create ellipse menu. And so we can go 512 pixels by 512 pixels. From center, actually we can go 768 pixels from my testing, and we can scale it down in editor if need be. So that's our perfect circle there. You can see all the dots line up. Now we just need to duplicate the layer, rasterize both of these, and then to select the inner part with your magic selection tool with a tolerance of 1, and to alias and delete it from the center, or delete it from the circle. Then we can delete that, and we can select and deselect. Now we just need to cut it up. So what we can do is we can take our two shapes, we can merge them, and we can use the same process. We can rasterize it and select, and then you can simply just delete it from your ellipse. Now we can just Control D to deselect, and we can use our rectangular marquee tool to select right down the center, and like so. And then we want to move it so that it is aligned perfectly to the center. So again, use the auto alignment tools. This way we know it's pixel perfect. Then we can copy, Control C, file new, and we know since the width and height is 375, we need to go with 512 by 512. So we'll paste that in there, and we will bring it to the edges, then we'll move it back the amount we want. So we'll go up by 15. So we'll go up by an even number. So 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll go 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll go left 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we know it's perfectly aligned. Then we can file, save as. Actually, I didn't want this black. Let's make a nice gradient. So FX gradient overlay, and let's go angle -45. Let's type that in, -45. Oops, didn't mean to hit enter. And let's choose a nice, let's go from black to white, but let's start at black, and then let's start at a black with a little bit of blue in it. A kind of grayish blue, I guess you could call it. I just like that. And then let's go back. Let's go kind of around the same color area. I'm not going to copy the codes for something like this, and let's create a nice lighter color. I like that. And then we can move the center one to create it more darker, so something like that. I like that. Alright, so we'll hit OK, and we're good to go. We could give it a stroke if we wanted to. We could go inside like 1 pixel, 2 pixels, 3 pixels, just to give it a look. You know, you could give it an inner shadow if you wanted. You know, you could spruce it up if you wanted. I don't see really any point per se. I'm just gonna leave it there with the stroke and the gradient overlay. Then we will file save as. I've got a useful shapes pie menu. I'm gonna call this 90-degree segment. I'm going to save as a PSD just in case, and then I'm going to save as a PNG so we can bring it into the engine. So 90-degree segment.png compressed, and then we can close that. So now we just need to go to our UI folder and make a pie menu folder, and let's drag that image in. Then let's create a new user interface widget blueprint. We'll call this widget pie menu. And we're going to add an image to the canvas panel. And that image, under the brush image, we will select 90-degree segment. We will size to content. And then we're going to anchor it to the center. And the alignment will be 1 and 1. And the pivot will be 0 and 0, and then the position X will be 0 and 0, and everybody's happy, just like that. So then you just need to angle it 90 degrees to create the other one. Actually, the pivot should be 1 and 1, I guess. Yeah, 1 and 1, right. Pivot should be 1 and 1, and alignment should be 1 and 1, so that you get that set up. And this will always be centered no matter what the resolution. What happened to my webcam here? It got like dark. Weird. Anyways, now these are just going to be images, so all we got to do is duplicate it. So we're just going to copy and paste it, and we're going to use the same options, 0 and 0. And then we're just going to rotate it 90. And that'll give us the second one. And then we're going to do the same thing, paste, copy and paste. And the same thing, give it the same option, 0 and 0. And then we're going to angle it -180. And one last time, 0 and 0, and angle it 270 or -90. -90 should work. So there we go, just like that. And we will probably use an overlay for them, but for now that will work. So let's first of all just test out using it. So let's compile and save. And in the graph, let's go to the event graph, and on event construct, we want to get player controller. We want to set mouse over events. We want to set enable click events. We want to set mouse over events, and touch, obviously, if you're working with touch, but we'll get to that in a much later episode maybe. And set show cursor, show mouse cursor. We want to set all of those to true. And since I like driving things by a variable, let's promote this to a variable called B is active. This will be a Boolean. By default, it'll be false. And let's connect this up to all of them. We'll use some nice rewrites to get it looking professional. Double click and arrow keys. There we have it. Same with the player controller rerouting. We'll do that to make it look nice and professional. We can bring this all back a bit. Bring that up maybe. And then we want event destruct, we want to basically do the opposite of that. So we want to copy all this on event opposite. We just set pizzactive to false. And that'll work just simple enough for testing. So let's compile and save. Let's go to our blueprints and we'll do this in the player controller. It needs some more love. You shouldn't have stuff in your character technically. So let's put it in the event. We should make an input graph. So let's make a new graph called input graph. This will be for all input actions. We'll move all the other ones later, but let's go, let's make a key for this. Edit, project settings, input, action mappings. Let's add a new one called Radial menu, which will be bound to Q. That's pretty standard. We'll go to our player controller and we will go Radial menu. So on input action Radial menu, we want to do an isValid, and we want to check if first we need to make a variable called debu underscore we'll go pi menu, and that's going to be a reference to itself, and compile. And so what we want to do is we want to see if that is valid. If it is valid, we'll go on later. If it's not though, then we need to create widget. And that widget will be widget pi menu. The owning player is going to be get owning player, get the player associated with this UI. That won't work. We need to local player control. We'll just get player controller, get owning player. Target is user widget returns player controller. No, get player controller. That'll work. And then the return value, we will set it to itself. So we have a direct reference, so we can do things with it later. And then we will add to viewport, just for testing. We're obviously going to want to do that on a pressed and released or flip-flop setup, but not right now. And then if it is valid, then we simply here. We want is in viewport, the target being that, into a branch. Let's see if we can do this a little bit cleaner. Not really. We'll do something like that. If it is in the viewport, we do nothing. If false, then we add it to the viewport. So we go back to there. So we could probably bring this over here. We could probably bring this down, over. We'll leave it there. Over. I like that, is fine. And then we can bring this back over. All right, cool. So let's test that out. So on Q, compile, save. Let's set up just for one player right now. Play. So when we hold down Q in third person, we get that set up, and we can still move around because we didn't disable movement. One thing that's common with radial menus that I like to do is at the end of this, we want to slow down time. So let's create a function called set time speed, or set slomo value, or just set slomo. Let's have an input of a float called new slomo, and then what we want to do is set custom time dilation, to new slomo. So compile and save that. We don't need to make it appear or anything, so we'll just call set slomo on true or false. Both. Go something like that, I guess. And the new slomo will be something like 0.1. So 1/10 of regular speed, and then we just want to call that same function when it's released. New slomo 1. Compile, save, play. So while we're playing, let me get this in the viewport. I got a different monitor setup going on. So while we play, everything's fine. We hold down Q and it doesn't slow down. No one release it. I went the wrong way. We need new slomo 1. We need new slomo 10. Compile, save, and play. So now when Q is held down, it doesn't slow us down. I'm totally forgetting it's not the right way to do that. What we need to do is we need to set slow-mo. We want to what the heck is it called? Execute, right? Execute constant command. And then the command we need to build, and the specific player is going to be get player controller, even though we're in the player controller. That command we want to build string from a float. So let's fit that in there. So append to, slow-mo with no W, space, and then the in float will be basically the suffix. So like so should work. So if we go back 0.1 and then on release, let's call it again back to 1. So compile, save, play. So we're walking around. When we hit W or Q, it slows us down, and then when we let go, it goes back to normal. So we'll need that so that we can do that, and that'll be local. It's up to you if you want to do that for network play or not, but it doesn't really work well with network play, but it is it does make things more interesting when you're just working on a prototype. So let's do a quick flip-flop, or rather just when pressed we create that. When released we just simply take widget pie menu and remove from parent. Doesn't matter if it exists or not, we just remove it anyways. We don't need to do that check on release. So compile, save, and play. So now we hold down Q, we get our pie menu, we let go, it gets erased. And also we should be getting let's see here. So I have no cursor, but when I hold down Q I get a cursor. And it still affects my movement, so I might want to change that, but either way we can work with it for now. So let's get the pie menu working. Let's go to the designer and let's name them. So image is going to be seg1 image. We'll go seg2 image. We'll go seg3 image. And we'll go seg4 image. That way we know which ones are which, and they're all variables. So before we add some quick functionality to this wheel, I think we're going to need some more room. So let's set position X here. I'm working on the bottom corner. So let's start segment 1. I've also used overlays. So that's what I'm going to do for each of them. So I'm just going to right click, wrap with overlay for each of them. Right click, wrap with overlay, right click, wrap with overlay. And so that'll help us work with them after. So the first segment, like I said, I'm going to translate it, or sorry, yeah, you know, we can translate it, that'll work. And then the overlay, well no, that'll screw up the overlay, so let's go right to the overlay. and let's set its position X, like say minus 32, I guess, and position Y 32 or negative 32, I guess, since of the way it's pivoting. That'll give us 64 pixels. Well, let's see what it looks like. And then the next overlay we want to set to 32 and 32, negative 32 that is. The next overlay, you see we need to fix them, they're all in the same area. So actually we should do that first. Yeah. So we should, so angle 0, that's totally fine. Should reset the pivot in there. And let's go to the overlay, make sure it is centered. So this one will be good actually. Number 1 is good. So let's just name this overlay 1 and make it a variable. This one will be overlay 2. This one will be overlay 3. This will be overlay 4, and is a variable yes, is a variable yes. So overlay 2 we need to set up over there. So take the image, let's reset the pivot and the angle, and then let's go to the overlay, and instead let's work with that. So set it center, let's zero everything out for now, and alignment, let's reset that. So angle, we are gonna need probably a 90-degree angle. We'll see. And then we want, oh, let's just leave it at 0 for now. So we're gonna want alignment of 1 and 1, and a pivot of 1 and 1, or a pivot of 0 point, or a negative 1 and negative 1. No. Alignment negative 1. No. Alignment 1 in the Y, negative 1 in the X, and 0, 0. Negative 1, negative 1. Apparently those aren't working. I guess alignment in the X, we want 0. That'll work. And rotation, we want 90. Yes, that is right. Okay, cool. So then position X, we want, so now X is actually Y. Or no, it's not, sorry. So yeah, X we want 32, Y we want negative 32. So overlay 1, overlay 2 looks good. Overlay 3, let's clear segment 3's angle and pivot, and go back to the overlay. Let's clear its pivot and angle. So we're probably gonna want negative 90 since it's just the opposite, and we can probably just use the same values, although we'll want a Y of -1, so we'll want negative 1, negative 1, I believe. So negative 1, negative 1, and it looks like I'm wrong. Oh, maybe set these to 0, 0. No. 0, negative 1, no, negative 1, 1, and 0. That will do it with a negative 90 angle. And then overlay 4, we're going to want an angle of 0, I guess, or maybe 180, I guess. And then go to the image and reset its angle and its pivot, and we're good to go. 1 and 1, 1 and 1. Oh, that doesn't matter. Oh, yes, it does, I guess. Alignment 0, 0. Whoa, that totally screwed things up. Never mind. What did we do wrong here? Why did these ones work? 0 and 1, 0 0.5, 0 0.5, 0 0.5, 0 0.5, 1 and 0. That's totally screwed them up. Why is that? That's totally weird. I think it has to do with the pivot. It should be at 0. But that's not affecting the first one, but it's affecting the other ones, that's for sure. Let's see here. So Y would be negative. It's really screwing things up. or sorry, x would be -1. Why is that like cutting stuff off? Oh, but only at a certain distance. Whoa, things are getting weird here, man. Okay, I seem to have figured out it's just a graphical bug when working with alignments and pivots, so I've just reset the pivot and alignment for all the overlays. And so overlay 1's value is -544 and -544. Overlay 2 has an angle of 90 and its x and y is 32 and -544. Overlay 3 has an angle of -90 and it's 32 and 32. And number 4, x and y, -544 and 32 with an angle of -90. So those are with the pivots all reset. That seems to be the graphic bug. So now we're good. And so we need to show if one is hovered, and we still have a graphical bug when zooming in. Weird. And we need to show data. So let's put some text in the middle just for now. Text block. Let's actually anchor that to the center too, and give it a position of 0 and 0, and give it a pivot of 0 and 0, and an alignment of 0.5 and 0.5. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's go like 30, 40. Size to content, maybe 48. 48 looks like it'll work good. And we'll just call this some data here. So we'll be able to show something there. And so to make one of the triangles, or to make either of any of these selectable, what we need to do is check if it's hovered. So take overlay 1 and take segment 1 image, and you can see we can tint it. If we tint it black, it turns darker. So we can do that. We can also tint it with blue if we want, something like that maybe. So let's copy that hex code, make it a little bit lighter maybe, or darker, sorry. Let's copy that hex code, just pick a color you like and cancel. And so the tint, we want to bind that. So color and opacity, we might actually need to do it there. Yeah, so let's copy that code just to make sure it works. Yeah, that works. So we want to bind the color and opacity. So bind, create binding. So this will be get color opacity when hovered, and take your return value and make linear color. And how about, there's another way to do this, rendering material, no, variables, appearance, get color and opacity, utilities, no, break, slate color, I think. We want hex. Select color, sorry, let's do a select color. A is gonna be our hex code, and B will be just plain white, so just regular. So we want to pick A if hovered. So take overlay 1 and is hovered, return value, B pick A. So we just this one will be, let's rename it when hovered underscore seg1, and then let's just duplicate them. 1 seg2, duplicate seg3, duplicate seg4, and then let's just open all of those and change their value. So seg2, change that to overlay, oh, we did make that a variable. Overlay 2 is variable. Let's make overlay 2 there. Number 3, let's make sure it's 3. And number 4, make sure it's 4. So 1 is 1. Where's 1? Let's close all of them except the event graph. So 1, oh, I'm clicking on the variable. 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, 4 is 4. So compile, save, let's test it out. Play, so we queue, and it is only, oh, I only bound that one, that's right. Okay, and it needs a click first. So without getting into any, there is ways to fake clicks and focusing, but we'll get to that much later. So let's create the rest of our bindings. So overlay 2, segment 2 image, color and opacity, bind to segment 2. Number 3, bind to segment 3. Number 4, bind to segment 4. And text, some data here. Text, we want to create a binding, and return value is going to be current, or we want to, promote to a variable. I'm not thinking straight smart, I don't have enough coffee yet. Promote to a variable called data text, and so we can set that when we need to. So get text, well, let's leave that. Compile, let's give this a default value of select a segment. Compile, save, and play. Let's do it in the viewport. Play. So queue, select segment. Once we click, then we can, once we've clicked in the viewport at all, then it works. So like so, events when they are clicked. So take your overlay and basically overlay 1, we need to put buttons on them. Sorry. So put a button on overlay 1 and set it to fill, and set its opacity, its background color, to pure 0 for the alpha. And then let's just copy that button and paste it into the other overlays. And let's give them a quick name. Button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, and then let's just test it. Let's take button 1 and do on clicked. So when button 1 is clicked, we will print string primary weapon selected. And we can work on a more advanced pie menu system where you can do it by just hovering over and then letting go of the key much later. That's a whole project in itself. We just need something simple for now. So pie menu, we click, and then we get our selection, we click, and it totally didn't print our string though. Q, click. It definitely did not. What's going on there? Pie menu, on clicked. Maybe it needs to be above the segment image. Let's try that. Compile, save, play. Actually, the segment image should be hit test. So we click, and we get nothing. What's going on there? Let's see here. This button is most definitely usable. Visibility, visible, yep. Overlay 1, hit test invisible. Here, let's make it visible. And segment 1 image, we want to be hit test invisible. Compile, save, play, queue. We are totally not getting our print string. There we go. I guess it just doesn't do it when you have too many things selected at once, but I guess on the ground it does. But after I've jumped for some reason, oh, there we go. So it just needs fake focusing, I guess, is all. Be our problem, it would appear. So that'll work for now. We can do things like that. I'm also going to suggest for this project, I'm going to remind this in a later video, that we go to project settings, editor preferences, and we go to experimental, and you want, I don't know why they haven't made this fully in yet. Where the heck are you? No, maybe it's under gameplay debugger. Where have they stuck it now? Blueprint editor, experimental. Okay, now I'm just confused. Where the heck did they put it? Automation. No. Experimental. It's in here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, editor, utility, blueprints, blutility, and set that as your default. What that means is if we go to BP player controller and if we make a custom event called blutility test that does a print string that says blutility is working, and if we take this custom event and say call in editor, and when we compile, you'll see it changes the icon to that little gear. Just save everything while we're at it. What we can do is we can go to Windows, Developer Tools, and then you can go to Blueprint Debugger, and it'll be hard to see when you hit play. Let's see here, Shift F1. I mean, I had the wrong shelf there. We need window blutility shelf, and let's put it down here so we can actually see it. So when you hit play, you can search for player, or we need to add it to there first. Blutility shelf. So we take our player controller and drag it in here. Right click, finish editing shelf. Drag and drop. Player controller, come on. Or maybe not while I'm playing. Come on. Work for me. Work for me. What the heck is wrong with you? Actually, I'm thinking about something else. What we can do is we can create functions in here. We could create the pie menu, and then we could call functions on it, and then you're able to test it from directly within the editor. So that can be useful for testing, but I was thinking of something totally different for the uses that I was going for, so I'm not going to use that at the moment. I'm going to delete those blutility stuff, but I'm going to suggest you enable it, because we might use it at some points to test replication. It makes it a lot easier. So now that we have a working pie menu, that will make things easier, because now from widget pie menu on click say button 1, what we can do is we can say get player character cast to our character, and then we can set health to 10, for example. So let's try it out. Compile, save, and I keep forgetting to hit F7 play. So Q, make sure we clicked, and when we click it, our health didn't get set. There we go, our health got set. You have to open it twice, I guess, so we'll have to come up with some widget stuff, because that'll become very important as we go on to make our lobby, and more particular our 3D widget for our character selection screen. So I'm going to leave this one off there. We now have a functional pie menu that we can use for interesting things, and the focus, I don't know if I really want to worry about it right now. because basically it involves getting the mouse position in the viewport and then using that to find out what to highlight, and then checking if the mouse button is pressed. Basically you can check is pressed, I believe. Yeah, so target is, oh maybe not, that's a button. Oh, I'm in a player controller. Pie menu. Is pressed. Button reference. We want to break. Wrong button. You can check if it's what is it? Clicked. I can't even remember. Is user. They keep changing things. Mouse. Key is mouse button. Is mouse button down? Yeah, that pointer event. And then you can check for mouse left from an input event, which you would you would get it from somewhere, and then you could branch off that and you would execute this functionality instead by getting the mouse position scaled by DPI, and then the player, and so on and so forth. So it gets pretty complicated, you know. Then you have to take the X and Y and turn it into a vector 2D, and so on and so forth. And you can override functions to do that too on mouse button down, stuff like that. So then you get a mouse event, so you can check like so. We've overridden the function now, so you have a mouse event like that. You can check if it's down, branch, true, then return, and the return value is an event reply structure, so you make an event reply, which we don't have any, but you can do all sorts of things. So it's pretty complicated though, so I am totally not gonna worry about it for now. We have something that works for now. So yeah, I'm gonna not override that. So we'll just leave that for now. Just a little extra I wanted to add. We got a little bit of time yet, so we could do something interesting like yeah, let's spend the last 10 minutes doing something cool. So let's go to our, yeah, let's do it on the player controller. Can we do it on the player controller? Possibly. Let's find out. So on input action, radial menu, I guess actually we'd want to do this on UnrealTek. So let's add UnrealTek. Oh, we already got one. Cast to BP character. Oh, it does all this. Wow. Let's do a sequence then. How about that? Let's bring this back just temporarily. Create a sequence. So first we do all this important stuff we did, and then we come up and we're going to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we only do once. So hit your O key to get a do once node, and what we want to do is add post process component and return that value, and we'll call this pie menu pp for post processing. And let's select that node and set its settings. So we're going to want our blend weight to be 0, and we want some motion blur and some depth of field. So for the depth of field, let's set the focal distance to something like, say, like 50, the near transition region, and the far to say like 4,000 and 6,000. The scale to like half, 0.5. the max bokeh size to something like 5. Near blur size 0, and near or far blur size can be set to stock 15. And motion blur amount, we want default value should be fine. And that should do it. Then all we need to do is when we actually use the wheel, what we want to do with the post process is we want to set up a little timeline with the blend weight. Excuse me. So what we can do is where are you? Where the heck did I put that? Okay. Oh, in the input graph, right? It switched me over. So when pressed, we set our slow-mo, which we can actually replace with just set. I forgot about the node set global time dilation, but I think that's only for first person. I have never actually tested it in multiplayer. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to create timeline. Need to add a timeline. So right click and add timeline. We'll call this PP timeline, and we want to play. And what we want to do is open it, and we need some output. So let's set the length pretty short to like 0.25, and then we want to add a float track and synchronize view, yes, external curve none, and we want to start at 0. So at 0, let's right click and add key. So time 0, value 0, time 0.25, add key, so 0.25, value 1. So that will blend it in a nice linear curve. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Now I have to, come on, redo, and 0.25, and 0, come on, 0.25, and a value of 1. There we go. So it'll give us a nice, where's autofit? Not in these types of graphs. So it'll do a nice curve like that. And there it is, zoom in. We could add a little like curve if we wanted, since there's no handle editor. Like it could come on fast and then slowly add on the last little bit if we wanted. Something like that, I don't know. Whatever you think is cool. So anyways, close that timeline, and so now it will, where are you, input graph, it'll give us this new track 0, which I should have named, but whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. We will want to take our post process, pie menu post process as a getter, and we'll want to set blend weight. Context sensitive. Oh, come on. Set blend weight. Set post process blend weight. Set blend weight. No, not in a volume. That won't work. Come on. Set blend weight. Post process component. There we go. I don't know why that doesn't come up automatically. And then tie that right into there, and update will feed that. And yeah, and then we can just go on released. We simply replay, play it in reverse. So compile, save. Let's hit play. So we go about our business, then when we hit Q, we get the funky function, and then when I let go, it goes back to normal. Doesn't affect our UI though, so there we go. Something a little extra. So yeah, we'll get back to the actual game. We'll do some more blueprinting. We need to finish up our game mode. That'll be pretty important. We're getting there though. We got a lot of good functions going on in there. So yeah, that's good. And our character is still going to need quite a bit of work with once we add on weapons and classes. And because of classes, our game state's going to need quite a bit of work. Right now we only have rankings and some simple data about the server and game mode for the GUI, and our player controller needs a lot of work. Right now we have nothing except like request respawn in this thing, and our player state is going to need a little bit of work because right now we have kills and deaths, but we have no way to set them. So yeah, maybe we'll do kills and deaths in the next video. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'll get to it. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching from the team here at UnrealTek.net. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and we're also taking donations. If you didn't like it, please tell us why. So remember, create your way, and we'll see you next time.